Okay, James, today we are here for our Ethical Edge episode. And today is a huge topic. I know that it's on lots of people's minds right now. And as we navigate AI and how fast it's going, I guess this is going to become more and more prevalent for us to be thinking about and talking about. So it's all around AI and the ethics around how to sell AI ethically. So is this something that you're interested in, know much about?
Yeah, for sure. I think ethics has always been an interesting subject, and as AI has evolved, it's definitely become at the forefront of much of the discussion that we're having, particularly as one of the biggest messages out there at the moment is that AI is going to take your jobs. So, is it ethical for a business owner to deploy AI, and thus is it ethical for an AI expert to sell AI into such businesses? It's a huge topic, as you said.
Yeah. Okay. So you've mentioned something really interesting there. What is your take on it then, if you were to answer that question for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, if you're an ethical person, then you would much prefer to be the one selling AI than to leave it to someone unethical. And I think that's selling in general, right? There's a concept of selling is serving. If you truly believe that you're doing good by selling the service or the product that you have to a business person or an individual, then by selling, you are in essence serving them. You're helping them towards their desired outcome to overcome the problems that they have. So in that sense, I would say 100%. Like, you know, you as an ethical person should always sell AI. Now, it's not your job as the person that's selling to determine whether the person using the AI is going to be doing it ethically.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a bit more about that then, because that's quite interesting. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I was just muted. There's some people walking around.
okay.
Uh, that's the question again.
Okay. So you've mentioned it's not that person's role to judge whether who they're helping is then going to be able to, is then going to take those AI solutions and whatever they're doing
Hmm.
and be ethical with it. So that's really interesting because I would tend to feel like I would. I would totally like if I felt that someone was going to take what I'm going to give them and use it unethically, I would pause and I probably wouldn't do it. So tell us a bit more about what you're thinking around that.
So, well, before I do, what is something unethical you believe AI could do in where it's in the hands of one person, it's ethical, but in the hands of another person, it's unethical?
I don't think it's what that person their intention of what they're going to use it for. It's not necessarily about the person, it's about their intention of what they're going to do with it. So I guess I don't know, like data privacy, right? If you were going to create a solution for someone who is going to be able to then collect data, managing that responsibly, in the kind of person that's going to use it for ill intention or unethically, collecting a lot of people's data and then selling it. That's not great, right?
Yeah, but as the person selling it, I think you're not really I mean, if you're enabling somebody to collect data for it to be sold in that way, then you're probably selling an unethical service, regardless of whether it's AI or not AI. I think in most cases, the argument of is selling AI ethical comes down to the point of what are the ramifications of selling AI, let's say, into a business? Well, the ramifications could be that the business owner decides to get rid of two-thirds of their staff. And in that sense, you as the provider of that AI product or service are partly responsible because you've enabled him to or her to completely streamline their business so that they don't need human beings, right? In terms of data, well, I mean, again, it's like you as the business owner are ultimately responsible for how you safeguard your data. Now, if my job as an AI specialist is to house data somewhere safe and I fail to do that, then that's unethical. But if my job is to get the data and it's the business owner who's going to be storing it however they like to store it, whether they store it safely in an appropriate spot is on them and not on me as the provider. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm seeing your point more and more as you're talking and thinking it through that I guess one can only be responsible for themselves, right? And what they're in control of. And that is your delivery of what you're giving them. That's ethical in the manner that it's conducted. interesting that you mentioned that if they then go to use that as an example to then lay off 80% of their staff, I'm not sure if that is unethical. It's not so it's not nice, and it's, those people and all their livelihood, and that it's hard to, yeah, it's hard to think that that would be a good thing to happen. But is that unethical in itself? And to the point, you've delivered something ethically. You have no control over what that business or person is going to go then and use that for. Is that in line what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you, if something you sold led to 1,000 people being laid off, I think we've seen some crazy ones actually. IBM laid off a load of people. Microsoft. Do you think if you were the creator of that service, would you feel as though it was in hindsight would be unethical to have sold that service into those businesses that laid off the staff?
This is a good question because I think it goes back to, just the history of invention, right? The intention of the inventors at the time when they're creating something new, mostly, I would say, more often than not, it's for good, right? It's for good. It's to help humanity in one way or another. But the reality is that when that technology is then put in the hands of others who have different intentions and ways of thinking and what they want to get out of it, power, greed, money, whatever that is, then it can be turned to be used for negative reasons. So to your question, I would I wouldn't say it's unethical, but I would feel really shitty about it. And I would imagine also I would be bit aware that I've created something or I've got something here and understanding the scope of what it could be used for. Like I would be, if I wasn't really aware of that, I would find that hard to like really comprehend. I would probably know that this could lead to X, Y, Z. And part of that, I guess, using the example of here, I'm giving you something that's going to make your business way more efficient and cut down on da 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 da. That's part of the sell, right? I would imagine you're kind of saying to that business owner, you could actually cut a lot of costs out of your business by human capital. That's my thinking. Maybe I'm making too many assumptions here, but yeah, that,
I think it's a really interesting topic, right? Because this is the whole premise around our AI orchestration program, and the fact that should you really, as a skilled employee, be leaving your fate, your future, up to the decision making of a business owner that doesn't have your best interests at heart when it all comes down to it? They have, the best interests of their balance sheet of their investors. And because really, with the power of technology, a business owner can go one of two ways. They could take an AI tool or a series of AI tools and decide, now I can cut my staff by 2/3, but essentially deliver the same service. Or they could say, right, now with this new technology, I can utilize my staff more productively and triple the amount of revenue that I bring in. And I'm sure that most smart and ethical business owners will see some blend, right? There'll be some roles that don't survive. Probably the very admin-y ones in the next year or so will just go, because who's going to need, a receptionist when you've got somebody that's going to answer phones, categorize emails, and even have a little iPad to greet customers as they walk in, right? It is probably, you know, those roles are going to go regardless. Now, a business owner has the choice again. Could they upskill or pivot that person into another area of the business? Or would it be better to actually, remove them from the balance sheet and use that money and deploy it into marketing or hire somebody more specialized?
yep.
And I think in the end, the question isn't around is selling AI ethical, or even is AI ethical? The question always comes back to human beings. Are we ethical? 90% of the time, we're probably not ethical. I don't think that has anything to do with the technology. We can all choose to keep on our staff, but when it comes to it, AI is there we're orchestrating teams of AI. Will we choose to do it?
Yeah.
Will we choose to train up a team of AI orchestrators?
Yep.
Hard to say.
Yeah, I don't think we can paint all the business owners in the world as villains because really, it's business, it's survival, and businesses go through, this is part of business, right? And so now we've just got a new problem to solve or, an opportunity to grab. So not all business owners are going to do this out of, some malice, but it could just be that this is the best choice for the business long term, right? And they've got things that they want to achieve in their life. There are really good examples from 5, 6 years ago that I was aware of, like when I was, talking to a lot of HR professionals. Big company, like one of the big companies, I forget what industry they were in, but they basically introduced a new tech which made their accounting department just null and void, like gone. There's 4,000 jobs globally just gone like that. But in the planning of this, they knew they were going to bring it in. They then went and did the work. They interviewed each of those employees. They found out what else they're good at, where are their interests, and then based on the skill set of what an accountant, there's some kind of fundamental skills there. They found that actually it was really relative for them to then move them into cybersecurity, because that was obviously an emerging, growing department in the organization, right? So then they just navigated and moved who wanted to go along with it into that new department. So they still remain there. So yeah, there are ways in which to do this for sure. I think it's great to have it as part of the conversation, that people don't feel it's black and white, it's one way or another. There are multiple ways in which they can make decisions on how to integrate AI and how to upskill and retain the humans that they've got.
It's such a pertinent point that you've made there, because I think AI or not AI, a business owner, the average business owner does not understand what it costs them to lose an employee that they've trained over the course of a year or 2 years. What that company did was exceptionally smart, because in most cases, it's actually easier to upskill an employee into a new field than it is to teach them about everything that the business does from end to end. So they were actually saving themselves money
Yeah.
by training them into a different position versus laying them off and then trying to hire a load of cybersecurity specialists. And they probably, well, definitely would have got these guys below market rate because they're not initially cybersecurity specialists. So this is the kind of concept that business owners should be thinking about. They should be thinking right now, how can we build AI orchestration or AI like teams of AI orchestrators into the business, because it's going to be much cheaper to upskill them than it is to go out to the market and find AI specialists. You probably have to lay off three admin staff, sorry to say, to hire one decent AI person. But could you take one or multiple of those admin staff and train them on everything they need to know to get them to orchestrate one part of the business with AI? 100% you can.
And who's better to do it than them? Because they've been doing it daily. They know the needs and the wants and the drivers of their customers, or, the service providers that they work with. They're the ones that are going to be able to instruct AI to deliver an exceptional service for their business because of that knowledge they've acquired.
100%. And I'll say one last thing on the matter. Business owners aside, I would much prefer to be the person selling AI than the person sitting within a business wondering whether AI is going to take my job.
100%. Yeah. Because that's huge risk, right? Yeah.
100%. So that's a good note to end it on.
Yeah. 100%.